How do we get unstuck from dense feelings that have been with us for so long? I'm going to fast track all of this for you, and I'm going to give you the answer now. And that is to apply love, non judgment, compassion, empathy, empathetic resonance, loving presence to the parts of ourselves that feel shame, that feel pain, that have been traumatized. We have to create a safe place for ourselves in order to move beyond that pain so that we can then be present for others and be present for ourselves. And by being present for others, what happens is in healthy dynamics that's reciprocated back to us, not only through the unconscious mechanisms and communication and fluidity of the body, but also in the language that we use, in the way that we relate to each other, the way that we allow ourselves to give and receive love. But let me share a story with you that has prompted this for me. I was watching something the other night. It was a TV show. And in this TV show, this man is sharing with his friend, this woman, the experience of being there at his child's birth. And he's explaining to her what he's feeling, what he is experiencing in his body. This feeling of, I just want to protect my child. I want to protect her. I want to be there for her. Everything has changed for me. And there's this deep interaction that's taking place. And he's sharing how responsible he feels now and how he wants to change everything in his life. That he wants to be so present to his child and to his wife, and he wants to change the person that he is for the better. He wants to improve upon himself. He wants to be a reliable, grounded father, a father that is witnessed by his family. Now, as he's sharing all of this to his friends, it's a family friend, she is there and she is smiling, yet you can see in her body language, great acting by the way, you can see in her body language she is in pain. She is so hurt. Now, how do I know that? Because I know her story. And it got me thinking about how we harbor our pain and it blocks us from not only receiving, but also giving and being deeply present to others. Let me elaborate. She didn't have a father growing up. She was raped. She experienced abuse, a mother that neglected her as well. She didn't have that healthy family dynamic. She didn't feel like she belonged. She didn't feel connected in her family unit. And as he is sharing all of this, it is triggering so much for her, so much pain, anxiousness, memories of the past when she was raped, when she was abused. No one was there for her. A father figure and a mother figure were not there for her. And while she's deeply, deeply happy and content for her friends that have just given birth, she's dying inside. She's in pain. She is suffering. She didn't have anyone to speak to. She didn't deal with that pain, that shame of being sexually abused, of not having a father figure, of her mother having men come in and out of the house frequently. Her mother not being grounded, not being present, being on drugs, not paying attention to her, not valuing her as a daughter. She missed that family dynamic. And she hadn't healed those wounds. And it's not about forgiveness. That's part of the story, but it's about feeling, it's about healing, it's about diffusing the shame. She kept that inside and she hid from the world. And as an adult, she compensated and she ran from her issues. She compensated with sex, with giving her body away when she didn't really want to. She compensated with a hard exterior, being that woman that can do it all on her own for herself, being relentless in her pursuit to prove herself, to prove that she is worthy. And importantly, she couldn't really be fully embodied and present to celebrate these people that she loved so deeply because their pleasure was activating her pain. And that's what can happen with trauma. When we have unresolved, unchecked trauma within us, we suffer and we are agitated or triggered or charged by someone else's pleasure in that space because we haven't dealt with it ourselves. We want that feeling of freedom, of being able to celebrate and share openly, trust ourselves, be free of shame, not the heaviness and the density that comes with having been abused. But we can't quite get there. And so the most important thing we can do, and relational neuroscience tells us this, is to be in an environment of safety, but to be deliberate in that environment, to know that it is important and imperative to shift this pain and to be willing enough to do so, to be met by people that see you without judgment, that can hold a safe space for your unexpressed emotions, that can help you reframe and reconfigure your past, to layer a new meaning on top of it, to release the suppressed that's in your body, to create new coping strategies that no longer need to play a role in your life, that keep limiting you and keep bringing you back to that place of trauma and pain and abuse. Because whilst those coping strategies may be worked back then and you shut the world out, every time you shut the world out in the present moment, you're actually bringing yourself to that past point. And it gets more and more difficult to block that pain out. You see, we cannot block it. We have to deal with it. And we deal with it in the presence of safety, where our nurturance canal from the top of our throat to below our navel can relax and open, where the ventral vagal parasympathetic nervous system can open up and engage, where we can tell ourselves we're safe not only through touch, but through voice, through presence, through eyes, through the tone, the pitch, the depth of our voice, the slowness of our speech, or that of others, should I say. Loving presence, empathetic resonance, people that understand us, that don't judge us and shame us for what we've experienced. And we have to start somewhere. To be truly present to the celebration of someone else's joy, we must clear our own pain, remove our fears, not subjugate ourselves, not oppress our feelings and our pain, but actually deal with it and be with it in a way that is safe. We can then relate in a more open way. And maybe if she had gone into deeper levels of healing with herself, she could have been more present, but even been aware of her pain and owned that in that moment. That wouldn't have taken away from him, especially if it's done in a way that is of mutual respect and reverence, reciprocity. And maybe if he had been more aware, not to take away from his celebration, of course, but he could have communicated maybe even a little differently if he knew what she was really going through. This isn't a his fault, her fault, and that situation that I explained is no one's fault at all. It's more about what's really beneath the layers. You know, we claim to be healthy, we claim to be healed, we claim to have it all together, but do we really have it all together? Where in your life don't you have it all together? Can you give yourself permission to not have it all together? In my life, and particularly as a man, I've had this ideal, and I still hold it, that I have to have it all together. I have to know everything. I have to be great at everything the first time I'm learning something new or picking up on something old, but doing it again for the first time in a long time. Take, for example, I've started boxing again. Man, am I humbled. And I'm pretty good. I think I am. I was. But I'm relearning everything with a new coach, new technique, new structure. I feel so uncoordinated. But can I give myself permission to just suck a little, or not be great at it, or not meet this super high expectation? That's one example. Another example is if I feel deep sadness. You know, I felt shame the other day because I'm exploring at a deeper level now, a layer that I haven't gone before, my relationship with food and what it means to me. And there's a weakness there for me, or there's a trauma there. And I've known that for many years. But the layers that I'm going to now, it brings up more shame. So can I give myself permission to feel that and not keep hiding from it and pretending it doesn't exist? Because then that affects every relationship that I'm in and every way that I show up. It affects every way that I show up. I cannot be present, fully present to the people that need me because I'm harboring my pain. I'm still trying to deal with that and deal with them and be present. Something's got to give. We've got to get that stuff out. My grandmother used to say better out than in. And she would she would speak to fighting and flatulence, going to the toilet. But I think there's some truth to that from an emotional perspective and a relational perspective. We keep that stuff in, it's like a bomb ready to go off. We're better than that, we're more than that, and we deserve more than that. So I ask you, what are you harboring that needs to be released? Maybe it's time. Pound blessings to you. I'll speak to you soon.